The Minister of Immigration meets with the Bahamian community in Miami, Florida to clarify the immigration policy. I'm Clint Watson. The stories ahead in the Bahamas Tonight Weekend Edition.
And coming up in sports, runners sprint to finish the Bahamas Half Marathon. The Bahamas Tonight, the Weekend Edition, starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This portion of the news brought to you by BTC Every Day.
It's the weekend edition of the Bahamas Tonight. Good evening, everyone. I'm Charisma Robinson with a look at what's making news. Like always, it's good to have you in our company. Topping the news, Bahamians living in South Florida giving the government thumbs up for its enforcement of the new immigration policy. Their concern came out of the negative stories in the print and electronic media that painted a picture unbecoming of the Bahamian people. That's why many Bahamians living in South Florida and officials who do business with the Bahamas came out to hear the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Immigration explanation as to what was actually taking place and the government's position on the illegal immigration matter. Clint Watson was there.
Bahamians and officials connected to the Bahamas living in South Florida attending Saturday night's meeting on the new immigration policy are leaving with a clearer understanding of how the policy works and the necessity of its implementation. It's something Foreign Affairs and Immigration Minister Fred Mitchell set out to achieve. He says many Bahamians still struggle to understand the policy.
These are just simple administrative measures. You should have the passport of your nationality. You need to have a residency stamp or residency permission and a work permit to be in the Bahamas. And unfortunately, the fact that you're born in the Bahamas does not give you that right. And so, as harsh as the law is, the fact is, if you don't have a status, you can be in the Bahamas.
And as the minister and his top officers like the Director of Immigration, William Pratt, seek to clarify and put to rest untruths circulating, they're also moving to address other areas of concern where the policy may require additional support. For example, there are challenges in certain communities in Abaco resisting officials coming in to check the status of persons living there. In fact, the jury is still out on how many Haitians there are living in the Bahamas. Minister Mitchell says estimates have reached as high as 70,000 by persons who have conducted surveys externally. He also pointed out that while they cannot deny education and health care to anyone, there are still measures being put in place to have better documentation going forward for those seeking to enter school.
The requirement is you get your passport, you'll have a resident permit, and that will be evidence that you have a right to be in the Bahamas. And the schools will be asking for it. Right now they ask for a national insurance card. So the requirement, I expect, will be this permit, this new permit.
Will they be rejecting persons who do not have this permit?
Now, I can't speak to education on that. I'm just saying that if education wants to know whether someone has the right to be in the Bahamas and therefore the right to be in school, they'll have that evidence.
Pastor Leslie McMillan, Alexis Snyder, and Consul General Ricardo Trico believes Minister Mitchell did an excellent job of explaining the policy. Pastor McMillan says they needed to know the facts so that he can defend the country against erroneous information from people like Daphne Campbell.
Personally, I felt that she was out of place and that it was just maybe a statement to give a political, whatever you mean, political credit. But certainly it would try to affect the Bahamas, but it can't. And that's why we're here to support the government.
The number of illegals are starting to affect the government. It's starting to affect the economy. And it's time that something is done. But it's not specifically targeting a specific group of people. And he made it clear that a lot of the information that we had heard and that we had read about in the paper was erroneous, incorrect information. And I was really happy to hear that he had he met with the Mr. Martelly prior to rolling out the program.
A lot of the persons that I've spoke to here tonight, they say that they have been confronted by persons of Haitian heritage who bring these issues, and now they're going to be able to have the correct information to dispel that. And, people know the Bahamas is a country of beauty and hospitality. That's how we make our living. We are not going to treat anybody in any inhumane way.
And while the government is engaged in what appears to be damage control, back at home, Bahamians appear to be in support of this initiative. A recent survey showed an approval rating of more than 75%. Opposition parties, Free National Movement, and the DNA have also pledged their support with the government in this initiative. In Miami, Florida, Clint Watson, ZNS Network News.
The government's new immigration policy was also the common denominator during a courtesy call to Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell from Ambassador Laura Thompson, Deputy Director of the International Organization for Migration. Both officials discussed irregular migration in the Bahamas pursuant to the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding between the Bahamas and the International Organization for Migration in September during the 69th United Nations General Assembly on Climate Change. Minister Mitchell admitted to the misconceptions in the media regarding the Bahamas' immigration policy and said a public education was required concerning this process. He further emphasized our desire to strengthen our association with the IOM through further cooperation in areas of capacity building, prosecutions of persons involved in human trafficking, and the promotion of a sub-regional program between the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, and Haiti. Disabilities Commission is one step closer to enforcing the Persons with Equal Opportunities Act, establishing a Disabilities Commission come next month. The commission will consist of 50 members led by a chairman and vice chairman. The chairman will be appointed by the Minister of Social Services, while the vice chairman will be elected by the commission members. Social Services Minister Melanie Griffin indicated that once appointed, the commission will meet and chart out its action plan.
It is very critical for the commission to be formed. That is the commission is really at the heart of the legislation because it actually is composed mostly of persons with disability. Then we have, of course, the employers and the governmental agencies and civil society and caregivers of persons with disabilities. All of these persons, many of them who are so deeply involved in advocacy or caregiving for persons with disabilities that they really have a vested interest.
Now to news from the crime beat. Abaco police need your help in locating two men who reportedly robbed a man at his South Abaco residence of cash and jewelry around 10 o'clock yesterday morning. Authorities confirmed the man was awakened by two males whom he described as wearing all black with masks covering their faces and armed with a shotgun. The culprits fled the area after the robbery. If you have any information on this matter, you're asked to call the numbers at the bottom of your screen. Police are also appealing to firearm holders to make sure that their weapons are secured at all times, especially with children living at home. Just yesterday, police confirmed an 11-year-old boy was accidentally shot to death in Central Andres after the gun he and his cousin retrieved from a relative's home fell to the ground and went off, hitting him in the chest. Officer in charge of the firearms unit, Chief Superintendent Ken Strawn, commends those firearm owners who effectively protect and safeguard their environment.
We know that we have had some accidents with firearms out there, one or two ending in the loss of life, but predominantly as a society, I believe we have done a good job in caring for the weapons while they're in our custody. And I must at this time reiterate how important it is to make sure that your environment where you're keeping these firearms are safe. There ought to be a safe, which is you are subjected to an inspection of that safe and your environment before that license is granted for that weapon.
Police also admit that knowing how to use these weapons properly is equally important as learning how to secure them.
I do know that there are one or two of the licensing vendors who are also firearm trainers who assist in ensuring that the purchasers are trained in the manipulation of the firearms prior to them taking the firearms out there. I know that we've had quite a bit of discussions around it, and going forward, there's a lot more that could be done to enable and to better enable the usage or the handling of the firearms by persons.
Hundreds came out to support the Red Ribbon Ball last night. That story and more when the Weekend Edition continues.